Broncos country, I think it's time to take a little bit of a victory lap here because I know that there are several people out there who are kind of taking one on the chin right now. Today, it was officially established that the Russell Wilson trade and contract are far, 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 far from the worst in NFL history. Of course, that's something that we as Broncos fans and media members all know. We've been preaching that for a while now, ever since that narrative really started to get pushed into last season and hell, even into the early part of this year as well. I think both Russell Wilson's level of play has showcased that it's far from the worst contract and trade in NFL history. I mean, Russell Wilson has bounced back. I know I have been critical of Russ, but I've also heavily defended Russ when he's deserved to be defended because I like Russell Wilson. I also can recognize there are just a few flaws here and there that make me question if the Broncos should retain him long term when his contract gets north of $50 million. That's the only question I have when it comes to Russell Wilson. But he's very clearly, both on the stat sheet and on the tape, significantly bounced back from last year and is very much a top 15 quarterback in the NFL right now. So with Russell Wilson, he's playing well enough to squash all of that crap on his own, but another outside factor, and that outside factor being Deshaun Watson, has entered the chat room here because he is very clearly, he has the worst contract in NFL history, and the trade for him by the Cleveland Browns was the worst in NFL history. Deshaun Watson has a $230 million contract fully guaranteed. The Browns did restructure it a little bit and got off some of that money. I believe it was like $20 million or something like that in order to create some cap space to go all in for this season, and we all know how that worked out. It was announced today that Deshaun Watson is out for the season now following surgery on his shoulder. His play has been pretty bad throughout the entire season. There are only 2 games that you can pinpoint that Deshaun Watson played well, and that was the Tennessee Titans game and then the Baltimore Ravens game. And both of those games were right before he suffered injuries where he was going to miss a significant period of time. Now he is out for the rest of the season. You could argue that the Cleveland Browns are kind of better off without him, but either way you look at it, this Browns franchise is completely hamstrung by the Deshaun Watson deal. Let's come over here and take a look at Deshaun Watson's contract. $230 million, $46 million APY, fully guaranteed. And if you look here, the Browns have no out on this whatsoever. If they were to cut him, in theory, this coming offseason, they would have to take on a $155 million dead cap penalty, and they would have negative $92 million in cap savings. So that would completely screw them. Same deal for pretty much the entirety of his contract because, again, every penny of Deshaun Watson's contract is fully guaranteed. I mean, let's just, for craps and giggles here, come over and look at the Russell Wilson deal. If he were cut this coming offseason, designated as a post-June 1st cut, again, I still think there's a scenario where Russell Wilson is still here in the years to come. I just think that you have to think about moving some of this money around and trying to get some of this money off the books here because this is going to balloon pretty heavily here for the Denver Broncos. You'll see that Russell Wilson 2025, and remember, if he's on the roster by day 4 of the 2024 league year, this $55 million becomes fully guaranteed. So that's the question that I have and the question and concern that I have, but it's still very obvious that this Russell Wilson contract is so much more team friendly for the Denver Broncos than the Deshaun Watson albatross contract is for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, the Broncos, in theory, would take on a $35.4 million dead cap penalty if they were to cut him this offseason. The following 2 seasons, it would be an $18.4 million dead cap, but you'd be saving $37 and then $40 million on the cap, and then the final 2 years, it becomes extraordinarily manageable. So, honestly, at the end of the day, man, the Broncos, although Russell Wilson, again, is playing really, really well, if there were a world out there where they were to move on from him, it wouldn't be as hamstringing to the franchise as a lot of people are painting it out to be. Russell Wilson, this contract is actually comparatively easy to get out of, especially, again, when you think about this Deshaun Watson deal. And again, I'm not saying that the Broncos should move on from Russell Wilson. All I'm saying is that they should try to tweak around some of this money here, because this is where it's going to get really, really expensive in the latter years. $58 million, $53, $54. That's the only concern I have. I know I've been labeled as a bit of a Russell Wilson hater recently, but again, when you compare it to that Deshaun Watson deal, it's not even close. And again, just looking at the level of play, Deshaun Watson was actively holding back his team last year. You could argue, especially in the last couple of weeks, Russell Wilson has at least, I wouldn't say elevated the team with his play, but he hasn't held the team back with his play, if that makes any sense. So that alone, I will absolutely take. Russell Wilson, it's time to take a big victory lap, especially for all those freaking haters out there that were trying to write you off as the worst quarterback in the NFL, the worst trade in NFL history, the worst contract in NFL history. You've proven them wrong with your play, Russ, and there's another guy out there that's done enough to take that title away from you that I felt like you never even had to begin with. And we haven't even gone to the off-the-field stuff. Russell Wilson seems to be a man of character, a man of high character, whereas Deshaun Watson, I'm not going to get into all of that, but you can't say the same for Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, with Russell Wilson, take a victory lap, man, because you have freaking earned it. All right, Broncos country, be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.